This signature does not. Margaret inhaled sharply. So it's fake. It appears highly probable, I said. And the pages? Arthur asked. I nodded. Also manipulated. Different ink aging. Different print alignment. Someone mixed older pages with new ones. Michael slammed his hand on the table. Which means this is a manufactured will. Eleanor's voice cracked. Who would do that? Lydia stared down, tears dripping onto the table. Arthur's voice was a low rumble. You know who stands to gain. Margaret folded her arms. Not me, evidently. A silence so corrosive it felt radioactive filled the room. For the first time since I'd arrived, I felt truly unsettled. Because I didn't know who did this. Not yet. But someone in that room was lying. Someone had wanted Julian's final wishes buried, and someone believed the family would never uncover the deception. But they underestimated the Hawthornes, because within minutes, chaos exploded. Eleanor demanded the original draft copies from my archive. Michael wanted to call the police immediately. Margaret insisted on a private investigation first. Arthur made cryptic remarks about real motive and financial desperation. Lydia sobbed quietly, insisting she had no idea why her name was used this way. I tried to calm them, to maintain order, but I might as well have tried to stop a storm with bare hands. It was only when I said, "There will be a court hearing," that the room finally went silent. A hearing, Eleanor repeated. Yes. Until the authenticity of the will is confirmed, the estate cannot be transferred. The matter will be taken before a judge. Michael leaned forward, eyes narrowing. And if forgery is proven, I met his gaze, then someone may face criminal charges. The weight of that sentence hit the room like a blow. Margaret's face drained of color. Arthur exhaled slowly, eyes glinting. Lydia whispered something inaudible. But Eleanor, her jaw tightened, her fists clenched, her shoulders squared, and when she looked at me, her stare was ice. Then we find out who did this, she said, and we tear them apart. Her voice was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that hid storms. In that moment, I realized the Hawthornes were no longer a family. They were adversaries, enemies, suspects, and whatever had been done to Julian's will was only the beginning, because by the end of that week, someone would accuse me. Accusations spread like wildfire, quiet at first, then loud enough to drown out reason. I had expected the family to fracture, to lash out at one another, to turn suspicion into currency. But what I had not expected was the moment all their suspicions turned toward me. It happened 3 days after the reading. I arrived at the courthouse that morning with folders under my arm, forensic reports, email exchanges with Julian, earlier drafts of his wills, time-stamped memos from my office. All the evidence necessary to prove that the document submitted to me had been tampered with before it even reached my hands. The moment I stepped onto the marble floor of the courthouse lobby, Eleanor was waiting, arms folded, chin raised, eyes sharpened like surgical blades. Mr. Kessler. She didn't greet people. She cornered them. We need to talk. Michael and Lydia hovered behind her. Margaret and Arthur stood a few steps back, observing like spectators unwilling to admit they were waiting for someone to fall. I exhaled carefully. What is it? Eleanor extended a paper toward me, a photocopy, a signature page, my signature page. You filed this affidavit yesterday, she said, swearing that the will looked suspicious before it was read. Yes, I said, because it did. And you didn't tell us until after you read it? Because I needed confirmation. Her eyes darkened. Or because you were buying time. Michael took a step closer. Were you trying to cover your tracks? I stared at him, stunned. You think I forged the will? Why not? Michael snapped. You're the only one who had access to Dad's legal files. And the only one who knows his writing well enough to imitate it, Eleanor added. Lydia shook her head frantically. Stop it, both of you. Adrian wouldn't do that. Arthur spoke for the first time. Lawyers have manipulated wills before. Margaret's voice was a quiet blade. How much did you stand to gain, Adrian? I wanted to laugh, bitterly, but the fear tightening inside my chest made it impossible. You're accusing me, I said slowly, of creating a will that leaves everything to Lydia? What would I gain from that? Eleanor stepped forward, her voice like steel. You gain control. Control? Over Lydia, Eleanor said. Over her funds. Over her trust. She trusts you more than any of us. You could have directed her decisions, her estate, her signatures. Michael added, and you knew we'd be too divided to stop it. I inhaled sharply, feeling a tremor in my hands. This wasn't just absurd. It was dangerous. They weren't guessing. They were building something, constructing a narrative brick by brick until the shape resembled guilt. Let me be perfectly clear, I said. I didn't forge anything. I am here to expose the forgery. Convenient, Eleanor replied. Lydia stepped in front of me, shielding me ironically from her own family. Please, she whispered. Stop. Dad trusted him. So do I. Eleanor's lips curled. Exactly. The judge called us in shortly after. Inside the courtroom, the air felt heavier, thick with expectation and unspoken accusations. The Hawthornes sat on one side of the aisle, divided even while sitting together. I sat alone on the other side. I had never felt the weight of solitude so acutely. When the judge entered, all rose. The Hawthorne case, quietly infamous among legal circles, had already drawn murmurs from the gallery. The judge cleared her throat. We're here to determine the validity of the will presented as the last testament of Dr. Julian Hawthorne. Eleanor stood immediately. Your Honor, before we begin, the family would like to raise concerns regarding the lawyer overseeing this case, Adrian Kessler. The judge turned to me. Mr. Kessler. I am aware of the accusations, I said, my voice steady. They are unfounded. We shall see, Eleanor muttered. The judge frowned at her. Ms. Hawthorne, you will let your attorney speak, not you. Their attorney, a polished man with silver hair, rose and addressed the room. Your Honor, we believe foul play occurred, and we intend to establish not only that the will is fraudulent, but that the fraud may have occurred through professional misconduct. There it was. The knife finally given a name. I straightened, hands clasped behind my back. I welcome any examination of my role. I have evidence showing this will arrive already manipulated. The judge nodded. Present it. I approached the stand with my folder, heart hammering. The courtroom watched as I laid out the documents. Emails, prior drafts, signature analyses, my assistant's notes, the forensic reports. When the judge reviewed the forensic results, her eyebrows rose. This is compelling. Eleanor stiffened. Michael looked away. Margaret's lips tightened. Arthur alone held his composure, but I saw something change in him. A flicker, a twitch, a tightening in his jaw that lasted a fraction of a second. Something in that moment jolted me awake. Arthur Finch, Julian's brother, quiet, observant, financially unstable. His quiet desperation had been buried beneath expensive suits and cultivated sophistication. The one who had stood the farthest from the will reading, watching everyone else react. The one whose eyes lingered just a bit too long on Lydia when the allocations were read. The one who had repeatedly asked about access and motive. The one who knew Julian's signature well. They had co-owned property at one point, requiring dozens of notarized documents. The judge was still speaking, but my mind had already run ahead. Arthur. It had to be Arthur. But I needed more than instinct. When my presentation ended, the family attorney rose again. Your Honor, regardless of these reports, The lawyer had the document in his possession for 12 hours before presenting it. 12 hours. 12 hours Arthur hadn't even known it existed. And, the judge asked, that's more than enough time to alter it. The judge turned to me. Mr. Kessler, how do you respond? I can prove I didn't, I said, using the will itself. The judge nodded. Explain. Page 2 of the document, I said, contains a microscopic tear, barely visible. That tear existed before the will came into my possession. My office scanners recorded it automatically. However, that same tear is absent from the digitized file submitted to your clerk. The judge frowned. Meaning? The submitted document is not the same one delivered to me. The courtroom rustled with whispers. I pointed at the Hawthornes, or rather, one Hawthorne. Someone in this room submitted their own version before the hearing, I said. Arthur's eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting? The judge raised a hand. Mr. Finch remained seated. I continued, each word clearer, colder. The tear originates from an accidental fold on the envelope, an envelope that only the private investigator and I handled. The absence of that tear on the submitted copy means the person who filed it had access to a different version, a forged version. Eleanor shut up. Who? Who did it? I looked at Arthur. He didn't flinch, but he didn't speak either. Your Honor, I said, Dr. Hawthorne expressed concerns to me about someone pressuring him financially. A relative. Michael's head snapped toward Arthur. Is that true? Arthur's voice was tight. Julian exaggerated. Exaggerated? Eleanor hissed. You asked him for money 3 times in the last year. Arthur's composure finally broke. Rage cracked through his expression. He owed me. He wouldn't be where he was without me. And so you forged his will? I asked quietly. That was when he snapped. I deserved something, Arthur shouted, standing abruptly. He gave everything to his children, his perfect little heirs, and left me scraps. Again. Gasps filled the courtroom. Arthur froze, realizing what he had said. The judge's voice cut the air like steel. Bailiff. Arthur's face drained of color as 2 officers approached. I didn't kill him, he whispered suddenly, frantically. It was just the will. Just the will. But the damage was done. By the time he was escorted out, the courtroom had turned into a vacuum of stunned silence. Lydia cried quietly. Michael stared at the floor. Margaret looked 10 years older. Eleanor sat rigid, staring at the empty space where Arthur had stood. I closed my folder. Relief did not come. Because as I watched the family's shock twist into grief, into confusion, into a sorrow too tangled for words, I understood something with painful clarity. No one truly wins in inheritance stories, not even the innocent. The judge declared the will invalid. The estate reverted to the prior version, balanced, fair, quietly humane. But something in the Hawthorne family had broken beyond repair. Later, as I walked out of the courthouse, Lydia approached me. Thank you, she said, voice soft and raw, for protecting us. I shook my head. I only revealed the truth. She hesitated. Arthur, do you think he would have hurt my father? I looked at the ground. No. I think the only thing he wanted was money. But desperation makes people do monstrous things. Lydia nodded slowly. Inheritance brings out the worst in people. Her voice quivered. It brings out the truth, I corrected. We stood there for a long moment, watching the sun dip low behind the courthouse pillars. Families walked past us, talking, laughing, living ordinary lives untouched by dark secrets or manipulated wills. Lydia finally whispered, I hope we can recover from this. You will, I said, though I didn't fully believe it, because I had seen it too many times. When deception enters a family, it never truly leaves. As she walked away, I found myself staring at my reflection in the courthouse glass door. A lawyer, a witness, a keeper of secrets, a survivor of other people's storms, but most of all, a man forever changed by the will that was never meant to exist. I touched my briefcase gently. Inside it, the forged will lay sealed in evidence sleeves, a reminder, a warning, a truth carved by human greed. Manipulated wills don't just expose family secrets, they destroy what remains of the family itself. And in the quiet that followed, as the doors closed behind me, I accepted something I had been avoiding since the first moment I saw that forged signature. Even in a profession built on order, justice, and final wishes, some inheritances leave nothing behind but echoes.
Thank you for watching this story until the end. If you found it meaningful, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your support helps us continue bringing powerful, real stories from around the world.